Welcome. I am really excited to be here. My name is Dustin DeBrum. I am the Operations Director overseeing the California Cybersecurity Institute. First off, I want to say thank you to all the students, all the staff, and all the support that we've had here today. And I want to say thank you to all the players who are playing with us today. On the Space Grand Challenge. It is phenomenal to have so many students from across the nation participating in this event. And it's so incredibly humbling to be part of this program and to work with such incredible students here locally at Cal Poly that are actually putting this all together. I'm really excited today to introduce Professor Zachary Peterson, Associate Chair of the Computer Science Department at Cal Poly. We're going to talk a little bit about what Zach's department is, what he does, and some of the connections that he has to cybersecurity. Zach, welcome for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, the first question, I'm going to ask a little bit about yourself and about your department, if you could share that with everyone.
Sure. So, as mentioned, I'm Zachary Peterson. I am a professor in the Computer Science and Software Engineering Department at Cal Poly. That is one of three departments that are part of the Noyce School of Applied Computing. This is a kind of recently stood up institution at Cal Poly, supported by the Robert Noyce Foundation, Robert Noyce being the co-founder of Intel. And when I arrived 12 years ago, I was hired as part of a university initiative to enable our ability to do cybersecurity research and education. And so I helped stand up one of the first cybersecurity labs on campus with support from the Northrop Grumman Corporation. I helped design some of our earlier curricular standards. And 12 years later, we now have 6 full-time faculty, plus a handful of other lecturers that teach full-time security, operate their own cybersecurity labs from autonomous vehicle security, network security, IoT security, wireless security. We've really, I think, maybe met our mission of trying to expand our capabilities in cybersecurity education and research.
That's incredible. In that 12 years, that's a big span. And in this type of arena, there's a lot of change in that. What do you see as one of the biggest threats that are out there, and how are you addressing that with your students?
Sure. 12 years is a fair chunk of time, and some things have changed, but a lot of things have also stayed the same. Still plenty of vulnerabilities out there, still plenty of threat actors from, what we might call a script kiddie, just someone who is like taking, operationalized malware and just kind of launching it without really knowing what they're doing, to more, advanced cybersecurity or kind of cyber attackers to full-on nation states. Now, the abilities of there's kind of an old adage in computer security is like the attacks only get better. And so the real challenge for our students is not only to kind of what we call develop an adversarial mindset. So how do you start thinking like an adversary to then be able to apply that to defensive techniques. So how do we write secure software? How do we improve our software development lifecycle? Or how do we go about dealing with things like critical infrastructure? So, for example, the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant built in the 70s was built prior to essentially the deployment of the internet as we know it. So how do you start to address issues for technology that was made 40, 50 years ago, but has been put into a kind of a cyber arena that we have today?
That's really incredible. That's definitely seems to be a key arena, is that infrastructure change out that we've seen over time. There is so much that has to be changed out, and it's not just critical infrastructure, but there's so many different pieces and parts that are out there.
That's right.
Are you having to find ways to teach your students some of these older systems that possibly aren't even in use anymore? And how do you integrate that into current programming and computer science approaches?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, and we actually do it with help from our industrial sponsors. We have a lab that was built by Pacific Gas and Electric that focuses on critical infrastructure. And so they gave us a bunch of critical infrastructure components, program logic controllers and digital diodes, codes and actual things that actuate. And we were asked to kind of like start to integrate these types of labs into our classroom. As you know, the motto of Cal Poly is learn by doing. And so every one of our computer science courses comes with a hands-on lab. And so when we deal with hardware security, we'll actually go and manipulate these devices, see how we can get them to break. But you're absolutely right. There is this expansion of greater attack surface from, it's not just software anymore. It's not just hardware. It's that it's the deployment of IoT. It's our vehicles. Everything has a computer chip in it now, and if it has a computer chip, it's prone to exploitation.
So that kind of tees up the next question for me, which is, Cal Poly does not have a cybersecurity degree, but how is Cal Poly, especially computer science, integrating cybersecurity into its curriculum? How are we ensuring that understanding and that knowledge is gained by our students when they graduate?
Right. Yeah. So when I arrived at Cal Poly, we had exactly one computer security course. It was essentially the introduction to computer security, and it came at the end of a long prerequisite chain. And so if our students were going to see it, they might see it in like their last quarter of their last year. This is a little bit of a disservice because so many of your practices as a computer scientist, as a software engineer, have already kind of started to bake in. So one of my goals was to remove some of those prerequisites and try to figure out how do we bake in those core computer security concepts into even our first year sequence. So about my second year, I started teaching a computer security course for our incoming first year. So it was the first quarter of their first year in the computer science program would take a computer security course. And, we didn't get to see all of the topics or at the depth that you would at a more advanced level, but it starts to, again, begin that adversarial thinking. Like, how do we start to think about, what if an attacker did this? Sometimes we call that counterfactual thinking. It's true, we do not have a named cybersecurity degree program, but you can specialize in cybersecurity. So there's an emphasis, concentration that will actually appear on your degree at the end of 4 years if you kind of take the right set of courses.
Oh, that's great to know. It reminds me of the adage from my days as a programmer of security by design, baking it in straight off the bat. And that approach has a much more, in my mind, a more effective way of ensuring that everybody has that philosophy and understanding.
That's true. It's really the best and maybe only effective way of actually creating secure computing devices and software. The challenge there is, though, that security always comes at a cost, and whether that cost is time or manpower or not being first to market, all of these things are realities. Sometimes they call it perverse economic incentives that you might actually not. You may be the best and most secure product out there, but if you came second, you might not be able to start to sell as well, or kind of build your market position in the marketplace. So this is kind of one of the challenges of computer security in what we call real life. It's like, how do we find, how do we make security easier? How do we actually, again, do it by design in such a way that allows us to be competitive and secure at the same time?
With that said, and with your experience, we have a lot of students who are playing today, middle and high school students, thinking about where they want to go next. And especially given the fact that they're participating in the Space Grand Challenge, have an interest in cybersecurity. From your perspective and where we are today, what do you recommend and how can they prepare? What's the career path that you see that could be really effective for this generation of student as they get ready to go out into the real world?
Sure. So computer science in general is really just applied mathematics. And so, taking the math courses that you can, some high school programs actually have kind of an AP computer science course. If that's available to you, great. But the internet is just replete with all kinds of resources on both core computer science concepts, but also cybersecurity concepts. There are websites. I'll give a plug to my Carnegie Mellon colleagues who have Pico CTF. This is a website. It's a challenge, much like the challenge we're having here today, a little more broad in scope, but it's designed for middle and high school students, and they've released all of their prior years. And so you can actually go online and practice on your own. What's great about that particular program is that all the challenges are scaffolded. So the first one is actually designed to be for entry level. So knowing very little about computing or cybersecurity at all, and kind of gaining more difficulty as you go on. So I think just kind of practicing, seeing these things, reading, there's kind of just so much information out there about what the current state of cyber warfare is, or kind of what the current state of cryptography. A lot of exciting things have happened over the last couple weeks in cryptography. For example, there was one of the, I don't know if we talked too much about this, but kind of post-quantum crypto, and there has been essentially a break in one of the kind of underlying mathematical underpinnings of what makes post-quantum crypto secure. So we're kind of in an unknown state right now whether some of our deployed algorithms are even secure anymore.
That's a frightening state to be in.
It happens not very often, once a decade, but we're there this week.
It's the fact of the world. Along those same lines, for the students on how they prepare themselves, how can they get started, especially in their schools? What are some steps that they can take to get started? What if they don't have a computer science program in their high school? Unfortunately, there are schools out there that don't have the ability to have some of these programs out there. What steps can these students to either be proactive individually or at their schools themselves to help to give themselves a leg up?
Sure. If you can find even some peers who are willing to kind of get together and you can create a club, maybe try to encourage one of your teachers. There are actually programs out there that will allow teachers who know little or maybe nothing about cybersecurity to learn those skills so that they can set up a club or they can start teaching a class in cybersecurity. This is actually a program that we've run at Cal Poly through this summertime called Gen Cyber that does this kind of teacher training. Again, there's just so many resources online. So even if you feel like you're by yourself, you can find a community online that will. Generally, the hacker community is very welcoming, particularly if you're curious and ask a lot of questions. There are forums, of course, and Discord channels, and so I would just encourage you to be continue to be excited about the topic. It is a very exciting topic. It's an exciting time to be in cybersecurity. So I think just going online and finding those resources that'll help you get a foothold into a potential pathway to a career in cybersecurity.
Along those lines of online resources, one of the big things that our students do here as part of this program is work on a lot of online courses and certifications. Where do you see the role of those certifications in the educational process, both as a way to increase own personal knowledge, but also career potential as I go forward?
Yeah, there are quite a few number of certificates that specialize in things like network security or digital forensics, or you kind of name it, and there's probably a certificate program out there. Cal Poly tries to create a more, I would say, well-rounded computer scientist or even a cybersecurity engineer, so that all of the concepts that might be tested in those certificates you'll see in your coursework. So we don't necessarily teach to the test, but we kind of teach the concepts that the test might ask its questions from. Now, that being said, there are lots of pathways, in even if you decided not to be a computer scientist, to end up into a cybersecurity career. There are lots of cybersecurity jobs that aren't just for computer scientists. This is kind of the if you see something, say something, kind of the public awareness element of cybersecurity is very, very important. And so I think there are certainly lots of different ways to find a pathway from wherever you are, whatever your interests are into kind of including cybersecurity.
That's great. Zach, we're coming to the end here. Are there any other final thoughts, words of encouragement, or you're here experiencing the Space Grand Challenge. You're seeing what our students are doing here. I know as both people who work at Cal Poly, it's incredibly exciting to see our students doing this level of work and this level of engagement, and especially having this level of impact broadly on a national basis here. Any final thoughts in your mind about this program that you wanted to share out?
I am so impressed. This is really, really exciting. It's really fun to see both the Cal Poly students, some who I've had in my class, seeing the impact that this program is having across the world, across the entire United States. It's really, really impressive. I hope that we can continue to do this and to expand, and tell your friends, get them to join your club or join your team, or create a competing team. That's what a lot of this is just kind of like fun competition to hone your skills and develop a passion around the idea of computer security.
Well, my hope is that in the future, many of the players who are out there today are going to end up being students in your department.
I would love that. Yeah. So, join us.
Well, Dr. Peterson, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.